Good morning all. For this session, we'll be discussing about the importance of network security. As we know that in present state or in today's scenario, the network security plays a very important role with respect to organization or with respect to an individual level also. Why? Because the information we have and the sense of sensitive data or the kind of security to protect this sensitive information is very important. And also evaluating this kind of security with respect to the organizational or the network, the device, and the kind of infrastructure which is there in the organization is also very crucial these days. And because most of the organizational infrastructure is having any kind of, at any point they may be facing the internet where the IP address space or the network can be reachable from the outside network. So in these kind of situations, there may be a chance that the attackers or the hackers, they may be trying to steal this sensitive information of an organization. So like a normal scanning techniques we can use, or the kind of assessment of the infrastructure to know the kind of operating systems that are used, to know the kind of services that are available in an organization, and to know what kind of IP address space that the organization contain, what kind of technologies that are used by the organizations. So these kind of available techniques are used to actually find out the various aspects of an organization, so that using some of the vulnerabilities or any kind of loopholes that exist in these technologies can be used to steal the sensitive information or to do some kind of malicious intents or kind of things that can be done on the organization. So to defend against these kind of attacks or these kind of incidents, so it is very important that the network has to be protected. And for this, there may be a lot of issues that can, or there may be a lot of characteristics, or there can be a lot of features that has to be established in an organization to protect from these kind of attacks. So we have security devices, we have a lot of access control methods. So these kind of techniques and methods can be used to actually protect the network in an organization. And when we talk about this perimeter security, so it is not only the kind of infrastructure we actually use in an organization, because when we talk about the attacks on the computer systems, it is very important to take them as in a serious way and to protect these infrastructure, because what happens is, if there is any leakage or any kind of issue with respect to the organizational data, then it will be a very serious issue for the organization. So for this, when we talk about this infrastructure security, the first thing we need to understand is along with the physical security, then the security procedure and policies are to be compulsory, because this is how we define the kind of physical security, or how actually this security can be used in a proper way, because that is where the policies and procedures have to be defined, how this infrastructure can be used to secure the organizational data or the organization. So in this aspect, we need to understand, or we need to first define the security policies and what kind of procedures that can be used to a set of infrastructure that is already there in an organization, so that they can be effectively used to make this the security possible. So for this, again, these kind of security policies or procedures can be enforced in the following areas, like the physical access control, where we can be having this biometric access or the facial recognition, or it's a set of physical controls where whenever there is an entry or exit, a proper kind of access mechanism has to be there. Let's say if we talk about any data center, then there will be a lot of physical access controls with this particular kind of thing. So first we need to entry at the security. There will be surveillance cameras. There should be a proper approval before entering the data centers, and also along with that, there should be a proper kind of biometric access or a kind of card access. So all these kind of mechanisms will ensure that the proper authorization and the proper kind of authentication is done before the secure areas are actually used by individuals, so that this kind of security will be in place, or will be starting from the physical access control. Not only to that a specific premise, we can also have the physical access controls onto the devices, like it may be a system where there may be a kind of proper access to that kind of devices. So these kind of things will become. And when we talk about the device management, again, this is with respect to the kind of individual devices we use in the IT infrastructure. Like it may be an endpoint system, it may be the server, it may be smartphones, or it may be a laptop, or any kind of devices that we use with respect to the infrastructure. Then they should be properly managed, and whatever the controls or whatever the access mechanisms that are there, they should be continuously monitored and logged to actually understand the kind of access, or to understand what is there on those particular devices. And also with respect to the private security, so we need to segregate the kind of network also with respect to the kind of infrastructure, so that only a specific set of group or a specific kind of people are having a particular security in an area. So these kind of things are to be considered whenever we talk about this physical security, as well as accordingly the security policies and the procedures are to be made so that they will be effective with respect to the kind of environment. And when we talk about this security, it is not only a single point, because whenever we talk in terms of security, it is not a single point, say that a particular point is secured and entire security is enforced, or it is there. So we have to treat this security in every aspect, or in every parameter, or in every part of the IT infrastructure. So right from the physical security, that means right from the cables laid out and with respect to all the high-end devices which are there. So this security has to be inbuilt, or it has to be with respect to the kind of policy. So it has to be enforced in all the kind of parameters, or in all the kind of devices that are available. It may be the cables, because a kind of security has to be there with respect to the cables layout, so that no one can actually connect to the open ports which are available and can access the network. Or there may be kind of security with respect to the switches we use, or there may be the security with respect to the routers that are used, and with respect to the gate walls, the firewalls, or the security devices like the IDS, intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention system. So all these devices are to be taken care. It's not that at a single point it is secured and the entire security is enforced. So it has to be taken in every part of the infrastructure. So when we talk about these kind of device, because security, as we said, it is not only a single point as we discussed. So there will be a lot of devices, and there will be a lot of methodology that is involved in protecting this IT infrastructure. So we have different kinds of devices with respect to that. We may be, as we discussed, there are a lot of devices at each particular point to provide a set of features in the IT infrastructure. So for this, there are a lot of devices, and according to the kind of design, or according to the kind of resources that are used, these security devices are used. So whenever we talk about an organization network, so it has to be connected to the networks which we don't know. Like let's say if we talk about the internal network of an organization, then this has to be connected to the internet. So from internet, it is not a trusted network for the organization, because there may be any kind of traffic that may come into the network. So, or it may go out of the internal network to the internet. So these kind of networks are to be ensured that there is a security on this kind of thing. So from a security perspective, if we talk about, so this network or the perimeter income, it has every point where the internal network is connected to the different networks, and the endpoints or the host are to be properly managed with respect to the networks. So with these kind of things, so each device in this network or the IT infrastructure has its own characteristics, it has its own advantages, and also it has its own limitations. And whenever we talk about security, there should be two kinds of approach to the kind of security we use in terms of design, because as a specific device, there may be a kind of advantage or limitations to a particular security device, and there is also an integrated approach with respect to all the devices which are there. So the security has to be looked into these two aspects, as an individual device or the security device, or what are the security parameters on those device as an individual, and whenever this device is placed in the network, so what kind of characteristics that the device behave as part of the whole architecture. So there should be two kind of approaches whenever we talk about this security in the device thing. So the first is individual as well as the integrated approach with respect to that. And also when we talk about the kind of security risks, so there are a lot of securities that are involved. A normal default configuration with a weak password or a default configuration can also be in security risk when we talk about the perimeter security of an organization or the IT infrastructure. So, and also we have a lot of modern attacks, which we'll be discussing some of the attacks in the coming sessions in the afternoon, where the information can be gathered of an organization, the scanning techniques can be performed, and using the vulnerabilities of the applications or the devices, the exploitations can be done. So based on that, we again have a lot of advantages and limitations with respect to all the devices which are there in the IT infrastructure. And when we talk about the kind of defenses that are looked in an IT infrastructure, so broadly we can categorize them into the kind of perimeter devices, the network defenses, host defenses, and application defenses, as well as to protect the data and resources that are there in an organization. So when we talk about the perimeter defenses, so the perimeter or the overall connectivity, we have to look about blocking the illegal access or the kind of anonymous access to the authorized communication. So there should be a proper authorization mechanism to access the resources of an organization. So there should be a kind of mechanism or a kind of policies or procedures to actually protect this kind of unauthorized communication. So the devices or the kind of technologies that are used at the perimeter level, then they have to be in a proper way that all the kind of traffic or all the kind of communication that is come in and out has to be properly permitted or denied. Then it has to be continuously monitored accordingly. And when we talk about the kind of network defenses, again, along with the kind of there should not be only kind of single security kind of thing, then it has to be multiple security layers, like an antivirus can be used, or intrusion detection system can be used, or there may be kind of intrusion prevention system, or because this defense has to be at the network level. So along with the, let's say when we use an antivirus at an host level, or the same can be deployed at an network level, where when there is an entry into the network itself, the traffic or the communication can be scanned at a single point. So these kind of methodologies can be used so that a proper incident response plan can also be generated with that. And when we talk about the host defense, and again there may be kind of encryption can be used at the host level, or the kind of authentication, a proper kind of authentication and authorization can be made at the host level, so that only the proper kind of controlled communication can be only established with respect to the host available. And when we talk about the application defenses, so this can be a kind of applications which are used with respect to the network, with respect to the applications that are hosted as part of this. So we have a different set of applications. It may be an email application, or it may be an web-based browser application, or a website or a portal that is hosted from the organization to be accessed by the public. So a lot of kind of analysis has to be made on this kind of application. So what kind of how many hits that are coming onto the application, what are the IPs that are, and with respect to that, not only the kind of success rate, but also we need to look on to the kind of errors that are coming onto the application, because whenever there is an kind of mechanism or an attacking that is happening on the application, so there may be a lot of traffic that is generated to access these applications or the kind of applications that are available in an organization. So these errors will also give an insight into the kind of application we use, or the approaches that is made by the attackers or the people from the outside. So how to actually access this kind of application. So application defense is also a very important part. And whenever we talk about the data and resources, because there may be a lot of sensitive information in organization, there may be documents, there may be videos, there may be a kind of PDF files. So there is a lot of sensitive information on the organization. So there may be a kind of data leak prevention kind of methodologies can be used, and the kind of file sharing that can be used. So we have to protect these kind of sharing information even within the LAN environment. So how effectively the kind of resources are shared within the LAN or within the internal network, and how they are protected. So all these kind of defenses are to be taken care. And also the challenges, there are a lot of challenges that are included when we talk about protecting this, because the designing part will be the major issue, or the kind of remote users access, and there should be a proper monitoring on the kind of communication that is happening with respect to the IT infrastructure. Along with the monitoring, there should be a proper reporting mechanism also, so that whatever there is an analysis or findings on these kind of networks, so it has to be reported to the higher management, so that effective, because it's like it is kind of whenever we talk about security, it is kind of cyclic architecture. So whenever we get something output from an these kind of observations, then that same thing can be used to refine the kind of methodology, or to refine the techniques that are used to protect. So this will be always the kind of cyclic behavior. So whenever we actually properly monitor the security, then the observations or the kind of effective things, whatever we get from these observations are, if they're properly reported, then it can be used in a different, or in a more important way to actually close, or to closely monitor these kind of things. So this is where the challenges will be included, and also we need to have a look about the kind of traffic that is coming into in with respect to the packet inspections. And the most important thing is the standard compliance, because whenever we talk about a particular IT infrastructure, if it is let's say if it is an ISO compliance, then there will be a lot of trustworthy that is already inbuilt into that kind of standards, because it is compliance to a specific standard, where all the kind of objectives are met with respect to that particular standard. So based on the kind of infrastructure that is maintained, whether it is dealing with the kind of financial data, or whether it is dealing with the kind of health data, so based on the business requirements or the organizational needs, so these kind of standard compliance will actually give an trustworthy, or the kind of compliance with respect to the standards which are already in place. And also there may be a lot of other kind of things that are there, like the cost of the devices, or the security that is placed. And whenever we talk about the applications or any kind of websites that are hosted, so we need to understand, or in an organization to specifically relate to the kind of bandwidth, or any kind of allocations that are used. So the users will also play an important part. And whenever we talk about security, the other part is that the users or the end users, generally it is the weakest link in the security chain. So we also need to have more focus on the end user part, because that is where the actual implementation of the entire security will be dependent on. So the users will also be a major part whenever we talk about the perimeter design, and also the number of public servers that are hosted with respect to an organization, and what kind of supportability we have with respect to the devices or the technology that is in place. So that also to be taken care, whether we are going to use these kind of devices or the technologies at a longer, or what kind of support that can be there, and also the support in terms of the kind of the scalability with respect. Let's say we are hosting a public server, so the devices that are supported are also to be supporting the kind of hosting also. Let's say there is an increase in the, or there is a sudden surge in the kind of access to this particular application. So the scalability will also be important point, and that kind of supporting features are also be to be available with the kind of devices we use. And also we need to understand application architecture also. Let's say whether there is a kind of we are hosting, let's say we are hosting an application, so there should be a specific design into the application, that this application has to a specific bandwidth of 2 Mbps or 3 Mbps. Then accordingly, in the firewall or in the security devices, this throughput or the kind of bandwidth has to be allocated to that application, or the kind of RAM that is used, and the kind of security mechanisms that are to be in place. So everything are to be designed in place so that whenever this application is hosted, there will be no security lapses with respect to the application. And the major part, we also need to check about the performances, because this is where with respect to all the designing part, because ultimately the performance has to be good apart from including all this security. Because whenever we talk about security, there may be an overlay, or there may be an latency, because it has to pass through multiple filters to actually make sure that that communication is secure enough. But along with it, the performance should not be dropped, or the performance should not be compromised. So this has to be also taken into consideration, because whatever the kind of designing we are approaching for this security part, that should not have an effect on the overall performance of the mechanisms that are used. So this is how the perimeter has to be designed, or the physical security or the IT infrastructure security has to be designed. And again, whenever we talk about the network defenses, there may be different kind of approaches whenever we talk about. So I think this we have already discussed, because whenever we talk about an architecture, majorly we have three kind of components. The first one is the internal network, where this is private to the organization. The other one is the demilitarized zone, or a kind of zone which is protected by the firewalls, where a kind of only specific set of services are provided. And there may be another network, it's like untrusted network, where there is no guarantee of what is the traffic that is coming into, or the kind of communication that is coming to the organization. So we have to consider all these kind of networks, and properly the defense mechanisms has to be used, or the security devices are to be placed. So there may be a different kind of architectures with respect to that. It may be a simple firewall can be used to protect, or we may use a different kind of firewall scenario, where the public hosting websites are completely open to the internet, or we can have a restricted kind of communication with respect to both internal as with respect to the public hosted website. So based on the approach, or based on the kind of behavior, we need to decide what kind of defense mechanism we need to be have with respect to these kind of approaches. And also, not only that, there may be an option like there are 2 or 3 different branches of the same organization. So whenever we are connecting this kind of branch offices, so at every branch the same the security has to be implemented. And there may be some kind of scenarios where, let's say if we talk about the VPN kind of network, so in VPN we are already using the established network like internet to actually connect to the internal networks. So in these kind of scenarios, we need to take different organizations which are located also need to be taken care. So as we discussed, the remote access are also to be important, and whenever we talk about the designing part, the complexity should be reduced, and there should be a proper user authentication with respect to the kind of network or with respect to the kind of authentication mechanisms on the endpoints. Because when let's say if we are giving the internal network to an people or the users of the remote users, then in that case the user authentication through the VPN, there should be a separate login mechanism for authentication, and these kind of behavior has to be designed with respect to the remote users. And as usual, the security policies are to be taken care, and the most important thing is the least privilege has to be allocated to these kind of resources, because whenever a highest privilege or the admin kind of privileges are issued, if there is any chance of misuse of this, then the entire access should be or is actually given to the kind of end user. So we should be in a position that only the kind of least privilege has to be given, where certain authorization has to be restricted to the remote users also, and whatever the access or the kind of communication that is happening, that has to be regularly monitored, and that has to be logged, because in case of any kind of incident that is happened, then this logs will play a very important role to actually troubleshoot or to actually pinpoint to the kind of issue that is happened exactly. So again, in monitoring, we have two kinds of things, the administrative as well as network level. So when we talk about the administrative, the kind of change management has to be taken into place, and whatever the kind of changes that are happening with respect to the architecture or with respect to any kind of changes in the infrastructure, that has to be clearly recorded with respect to the kind of changes that are made. And whenever all these changes are made, it has to be properly stored for further archival. And when we talk about the network level access or the kind of monitoring, then all the traffic or all the communication across the infrastructure has to be monitored or stored, and these are to be regularly reviewed, and the reports are to be generated with respect to the kind of usage or with respect to the kind of instance that are happening. So again, we have a lot of technologies into this. We have deep packet inspection, the kind of data that is also going in terms of packet. So this again will be possible to the with respect to the kind of security services that are made as part of that. And along with this, as we discussed, the standard complaints are also to be taken care of, because if we talk about the credit card or any debit card information, then the PCI DSS standard are to be used with respect to the health, the HIPAA or the health insurance portability and accountability can be used, or with respect to the information security management systems, we can go for the ISO kind of standard compliance. So according to the business requirements or the business needs of the organization, the standards are to be taken care of, and the standards are to be used, and it has to be in compliance with respect to the standards. So this is what we already discussed. So as we discussed, whenever we are talking about the kind of security as an overall approach, so the first thing we need to understand is the devices are to be tested for security as an individual level, and the same devices, there should be an integrated approach on all the kind of devices, because this device as an individual approach and also an integrated fashion in the architecture. So how this device is will be fit into the security part. So an individual approach has to be taken care along with the kind of integrated approach. So in terms of this, we may be testing the systems with respect to the kind of vulnerabilities that are associated, or there may be kind of black box testing or the penetration testing onto the infrastructure, or and also kind of the hardening mechanisms which we have seen in the earlier sessions, like how to secure the devices at an operating system level or at an configuration level. So all these kind of things are to be taken care with respect to the kind of security. So this is with respect to the network security. So if any issues with respect to the topic, then it is welcome to actually post in the chat group, or quickly we'll move on to the other session. There is a question with respect to testing of components. Sir, this is security of components in the sense with respect to the kind of devices we use. So the component security, again, as we said, with terms of device security, there may be a kind of vulnerability analysis on the kind of the devices we use, or the kind of penetration testing, or the internal audits, and the compliance with respect to the standards, and also the hardening of the devices. Now, let's say if we talk about a switch or a router, then also along with the kind of automation, we also need to have the manual inspection of these devices with respect to the configurations that are already written. Now, let's say if we talk about a switch or a router, there may be a configuration already there on the switch or router. Then this configuration audit has also been done. Along with that, we also need to understand the kind of vulnerabilities that are associated with respect to the operating system. Now, if we talk about Cisco, there may be iOS that is already there in the Cisco. So with respect to that, we need to also understand the vulnerabilities that are associated with the iOS. If we talk about Windows, there may be some kind of loopholes with respect to the operating system. Again, on top of operating system, there may be a kind of other applications like the browsers we use. There may be a set of vulnerabilities associated with those kind of devices, or the components which are there in terms of the device also. So for this, we need to understand vulnerabilities are the kind of security loopholes that are there in the system. So we'll have a detailed kind of discussion in the afternoon session about the vulnerability analysis and the kind of exploitation techniques we use in terms of the process. So that will be explained more in detail in the afternoon session. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Naresh.